Also fascinating to watch is what's going on at Bayer Leverkusen. We spoke about it a few weeks ago. It's official now. We didn't really give it quite a platform I think that it deserved. Um, Malik Tillman has joined Bayer Leverkusen. It's kind of one of those deals that we all know it's done, but the announcement just takes forever. And in this case, quite simply because he was playing the Gold Cup with the United States, right? So he was on international duty and therefore on the road a little bit and wasn't able to complete his medical. And then Bayer Leverkusen off to Brazil for the training camp. Kind of back to the roots for them, where Brazil, they're a very popular club there because they were one of the first German teams to sign Brazilian players, right? Or one of the first European team really to really be aggressive on the market. So they went over there and doing the training camp. So everything took a little bit longer. We all knew it was going to happen. It was just a question of when, not if. It's completed, 40 million euros. That makes him the second most expensive US men's national team player in history. I say US men's national team player in history because he's not American born, Stefan. He's German born, part of Bayern Munich's academy system. Then went to PSV. Then, of course, played very well there. Had over the years increased his market value in the Netherlands. Became a complete attacking midfielder. And we suspect that he is supposed to help fill the void left by Florian Wirtz. You spoke to our guy in the Netherlands, Transfermarkt's guy in the Netherlands, Kevin Lux, who really knows his stuff about Dutch football. And you got some feedback on Tillman and what he can provide.
Yeah, Tillman's been a really interesting player for a while now. Obviously, he came through at Bayern's Youth Academy, didn't quite work out there. He went on loan to Rangers in Scotland, and he actually did quite well there. I know for a fact that Rangers did actually want to sign him permanently, but PSV obviously came calling. He decided to go there, and he's kind of gone from strength to strength at PSV in the Eredivisie. And yeah, I spoke to Kevin Lutz, who's our data scout in Holland for Transfermarkt, and I just asked him, I was like, because I was reading a lot of the kind of reaction to the news, and there's a lot of PSV fans I was reading online saying, they're absolutely gutted that he's leaving, but I saw one say he's probably the one player in Eredivisie who they're convinced was going to go on and, be a star in a top five league. It's obviously saying something because obviously Dutch football is full of young prospects. But anyway, asked Kevin, and he was brutally honest, actually. He said, personally, he surpassed my expectations. I first saw him when he played for Rangers against PSV in the Champions League, and it seemed to me that he was that typical American player that was all about working and running, but nothing more. So I'm sure you could take note of that man in a moment. But he's like, so I was surprised that PSV paid that much money for him. But when I saw him play more often, he turned out to be more than that. When he is in form, he is a really difficult player to defend, can play on multiple positions and score goals. Last season, he and Ricardo Pepe, so obviously another kind of MLS player, were the two best players at PSV. He deserves to step up, and I think he'll do well in the Bundesliga. And yeah, the comparisons to Florian Wirtz perhaps aren't fair, Manu, but they will be made regardless because he's likely to kind of play a central role, literally a number 10 or maybe he's a number 8, or at least a player who can kind of drift out left, much like Florian Wirtz did. Although I suspect Ten Hag will probably have very different tactics to Xabi Alonso did, so I don't think we can draw direct comparisons. And I doubt Malik Tillman will appreciate direct comparisons.
No.
But, very kind of similar, upbringing to Florian Wirtz. Came through the Bundesliga youth system. And he'll probably be thinking, I've got a lot to prove. I'm back in Germany. I'm back in the Bundesliga, playing for the club who stuck it to Bayern Munich a couple of seasons ago. And I think it's a smart signing. It's obviously a huge signing for Leverkusen. Is it the record signing? Maybe Kwanzaa's the top one, actually. But
I think once you include bonuses, so 35 million plus 5, right? Is the deal.
He's already, well, he's level with Kwanzaa as a record signing. So, that speaks for itself. They obviously think very highly of him. But I think the other crucial thing that's really important, and something I noted as well, is a lot of PSV fans saying he's obviously known for being this kind of flair player. He can score goals, he can create goals, but his off the ball work was tremendous for PSV last year. That's what PSV fans kept raving about over and over and over again. And that to me seems maybe it's a bit of a cliche, but that strikes me as a mark of maturity. You know, a young player who now knows what he has to do to get ahead in the game. And, you know, if he's willing to kind of run through brick walls for Leverkusen next season and score and create goals, then I think he could be a really smart signing. I think he's probably one of the most exciting signings made in the Bundesliga this summer, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is probably frustrating for a lot of Bayern Munich fans is that Bayern Munich had a buyback clause that was 35 million euros, and they didn't activate it in this search for a attacking player. The never-ending search for a young attacking player. We'll get to Bayern Munich and what they're doing what they're up to next. But yeah, I think Tillman is such an interesting player because he did go through that Bayern Munich academy and is one of many players that then moved on and became a really good player elsewhere, which is, you know, again raises questions about the ability of Bayern Munich to convert these assets into first team players. You know, like it's not just Tillman, who's now at a market value of 30 million euros plus, but Yildiz comes to mind, who's a star at Juventus now, right? Who came through the Bayern Munich academy. Angelo Stiller is a 40 million euro plus player now at Stuttgart. I'm sure all three of them would be great assets and useful assets for Bayern Munich, and so that's something that you have to keep in mind. And I also think, you know, when you come through the Bayern Munich academy, that is something that helps you long term because it is such a tough environment to succeed in. I like the fact that he then went to Rangers. You know, it's not one of the best leagues in Europe, but it is a league that is difficult to play in physically. And then he went to the Netherlands, which was a completely different ball game again, right? Way more technical, more tactical, a little bit more open scoring. So, you know, he's already seeing quite a lot in his career. Also, the Netherlands and PSV, famously, where Mario Götze reinvented his game to such an extent that he is now a very useful player for Eintracht Frankfurt at an advanced age. But it was at PSV where he essentially finally made that move from being a playmaker to a complete number 8, right? One of the Germany's most effective players. And he learned that at a slower pace at PSV before then becoming a key player for Frankfurt. And you kind of see the similar thing with Tillman. Of course, he's younger. There's more time there to develop still. His ceiling is far from he's far away from hitting his ceiling. And so I think there's a lot there to like for Leverkusen. I think this is the sort of move that if it works out well, we're probably going to talk about maybe Tillman breaking the record for the most expensive U.S. men's national team player of all time. Because, you know, we saw it with other players at Leverkusen and how much they've excelled there. Having said all that, it's now working under Erik ten Hag, very complete coach, right? Tactical, very disciplined. Yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting step both for Leverkusen and Tillman, and I think an important step in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, Leverkusen are themselves a bit of a stepping stone to bigger things usually for these kind of players. So he's obviously moved to Leverkusen. He's been very kind of strategic with that, I'd imagine, knowing that, you know, if he performs well there, then as you said, it's not unforeseeable that he can obviously beat. I think it's Pulisic, obviously, who's the most expensive US men's national team player of all time. So. Yeah, I can't imagine that's not obtainable, Manu, if he does have 2 or 3 good seasons. But yeah, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. And like I said, I mean, I just checked his stats there. I'm looking at his player radar in front of me right now, and the 3 things he really excelled at, or 3 or 4 things he really excelled at last year for PSV were his key passes, so pass leads to a shot, and his progressive passes, so passes the final third, his dribbling, and the third or the fourth one is the amount of times he won possession. For PSV, so you know, a real kind of hard-working playmaker, and they can often be worth their weight in gold in the modern game. So yeah, a really exciting player, man, and one we'll have to keep an eye on for sure.